not to be confused with Declaration of the Rights of Man and Citizen of 1793, a second and lengthier declaration, written in 1793 but never formally adopted. The Declaration of the Rights of Man of the Citizen, passed by France's National Constituent Assembly in August 1789, is a fundamental document of the French Revolution and in the history of human and civil rights. The Declaration was directly influenced by Thomas Jefferson, working with General Lafayette, who introduced it. Influenced also by the doctrine of natural right, the rights of man are held to be universal, valid at all times and in every place, pertaining to human nature itself. It became the basis for a nation of free individuals protected equally by law. It is included in the preamble of the constitutions of both the Fourth French Republic and Fifth Republic and is still current. Inspired in part by the American Revolution, and also by the Enlightenment philosophers, the Declaration was a core statement of the values of the French Revolution and had a major impact on the development of liberty and democracy in Europe and worldwide. The Declaration, together with the American Declaration of Independence, Constitution, and Bill of Rights, inspired in large part the 1948 United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights. History. The inspiration and content of the document emerged largely from the ideals of the American Revolution. The key drafts were prepared by Lafayette, working at times with his close friend Thomas Jefferson, who drew heavily upon the Virginia Declaration of Rights, drafted in May 1776 by George Mason, as well as Jefferson's own drafts for the American Declaration of Independence. In August 1789, Honoré Mirabeau played a central role in conceptualizing and drafting the Declaration of the Rights of Man of the Citizen. The last article of the Declaration of the Rights of Man and the Citizen was adopted on 26 August 1789 by the National Constituent Assembly. During the period of the French Revolution, as the first step toward writing a constitution for France. Inspired by the Enlightenment, the original version of the Declaration was discussed by the representatives on the basis of a 24-article draft proposed by the 6th Bureau, Clarify, led by Jérôme Champion de CICE Acute. The draft was later modified during the debates. A second and lengthier declaration, known as the Declaration of the Rights of Man and Citizen of 1793, was written in 1793 but never formally adopted. Philosophical and theoretical context. The concepts in the Declaration come from the philosophical and political duties of the Enlightenment, such as individualism, the social contract as theorized by the French philosopher Rousseau, and the separation of powers espoused by the Baron de Montesquieu. As can be seen in the texts, the French Declaration is heavily influenced by the political philosophy of the Enlightenment, by Enlightenment principles of human rights, and by the U.S. Declaration of Independence which preceded it. Thomas Jefferson, the primary author of the U.S. Declaration of Independence, was at the time in France as a U.S. diplomat, and worked closely with Lafayette, Indiana, designing a Bill of Rights for France. In the ratification by the states of the U.S. Constitution in 1788, critics had demanded a written Bill of Rights. In response, James Madison's proposal for a U.S. Bill of Rights was introduced in New York on 8 June 1789, 11 weeks before the French Declaration. Considering the 6 to 8 weeks it took news to cross the Atlantic, it is possible that the French knew of the American text. But, as Lafayette notes, both texts emerged from the same shared intellectual heritage. The same people took part in shaping both documents. Lafayette admired Jefferson, and Jefferson in turn found Lafayette useful, writing in 1787 that Lafayette was a most valuable auxiliary to me. His zeal is unbounded, and his weight with those in power great. Historian Ian MacLean concludes that Jefferson worked hard to influence the French Declaration and that Lafayette was the ideal tool for Jefferson's interests as they broadened from American trade to French politics. The Declaration is in the spirit of secular natural law, which does not base itself on religious doctrine or authority, in contrast with traditional natural law theory, which does. The Declaration defines a single set of individual and collective rights for all men. Influenced by the doctrine of natural rights, these rights are held to be universal and valid in all times and places. For example, men are born and remain free and equal in rights. Social distinctions may be founded only upon the general good. They have certain natural rights to property, to liberty, and to life. According to this theory, the role of government is to recognize and secure these rights. Furthermore, government should be carried on by elected representatives. At the time of writing, the rights contained in the Declaration were only awarded to men. Furthermore, the Declaration was a statement of vision rather than reality. The Declaration was not deeply rooted in either the practice of the West or even France at the time. The Declaration emerged in the late 18th century out of war and revolution. It encountered opposition as democracy and individual rights were frequently regarded as synonymous with anarchy and subversion. The Declaration embodies ideals and aspirations towards which France pledged to struggle in the future. Substance. The Declaration is introduced by a preamble describing the fundamental characteristics of the rights which are qualified as being natural, unalienable and sacred, and consisting of simple and incontestable principles on which citizens could base their demands. In the second article, the natural and imprescriptible rights of man are defined as liberty, property, security and resistance to oppression. It called for the destruction of aristocratic privileges by proclaiming an end to feudalism and to exemptions from taxation, freedom and equal rights for all human beings, and access to public office based on talent. The monarchy was restricted, and all citizens were to have the right to take part in the legislative process. Freedom of speech and press were declared, and arbitrary arrests outlawed. The Declaration also asserted the principles of popular sovereignty, in contrast to the divine right of kings that characterized the French monarchy, and social equality among citizens. All the citizens, being equal in the eyes of the law, are equally admissible to all public dignities, places, and employments, according to their capacity and without distinction other than that of their virtues and of their talents, eliminating the special rights of the nobility and clergy. Articles. Article 1. Men are born and remain free and equal in rights. Social distinctions can be founded only on the common good. Article 2. The goal of any political association is the conservation of the natural and imprescriptible rights of man. These rights are liberty, property, safety and resistance against oppression. Article 3. The principle of any sovereignty resides essentially in the nation. No body, no individual can exert authority which does not emanate expressly from it. Article 4. Liberty consists of doing anything which does not harm others. Thus, the exercise of the natural rights of each man has only those borders which assure other members of the society the enjoyment of these same rights. These borders can be determined only by the law. Article 5. The law has the right to forbid only actions harmful to society. Anything which is not forbidden by the law cannot be impeded, and no one can be constrained to do what it does not order. Article 6. The law is the expression of the general will. All the citizens have the right of contributing personally or through their representatives to its formation. It must be the same for all, either that it protects, or that it punishes. All the citizens, being equal in its eyes, are equally admissible to all public dignities, places and employments, according to their capacity and without distinction other than that of their virtues and of their talents. Article 7. No man can be accused, arrested nor detained but in the cases determined by the law, and according to the forms which it has prescribed. Those who solicit, dispatch, carry out or cause to be carried out arbitrary orders must be punished, but any citizen called or seized under the terms of the law must obey at once. He renders himself culpable by resistance. Article 8. The law should establish only penalties that are strictly and evidently necessary, and no one can be punished but under a law established and promulgated before the offense and legally applied. Article 9. Any man being presumed innocent until he is declared culpable, if it is judged indispensable to arrest him, any rigor which would not be necessary for the securing of his person must be severely reprimanded by the law. Article 10. No one may be disturbed for his opinions, even religious ones, provided that their manifestation does not trouble the public order established by the law. Article 11. The free communication of thoughts and of opinions is one of the most precious rights of man. Any citizen thus may speak, write, print freely, except to respond to the abuse of this liberty, in the cases determined by the law. Article 12. The guarantee of the rights of man of the citizen necessitates a public force. This force is thus instituted for the advantage of all and not for the particular utility of those in whom it is trusted. Article 13. For the maintenance of the public force and for the expenditures of administration, a common contribution is indispensable. It must be equally distributed between all the citizens, according to their ability to pay. Article 14. Each citizen has the right to ascertain, by himself or through his representatives, the need for a public tax, to consent to it freely, to know the uses to which it is put, and of determining the proportion, basis, collection, and duration. Article 15. The society has the right of requesting account from any public agent of its administration. Article 16. Any society in which the guarantee of rights is not assured, nor the separation of powers determined, has no constitution. Article 17. Property being an inviolable and sacred right, no one can be deprived of private usage, if it is not when the public necessity, legally noted, evidently requires it, and under the condition of a just and prior indemnity. Active and passive citizenship. While the French Revolution provided rights to a larger portion of the population, there remained a distinction between those who obtained the political rights in a Declaration of the Rights of Man and Citizen and those who did not. Those who were deemed to hold these political rights were called active citizens. Active citizenship was granted to men who were French, at least 25 years old, paid taxes equal to 3 days' work, and could not be defined as servants. This meant that at the time of the Declaration only male property owners held these rights. The deputies in the National Assembly believed that only those who held tangible interests in the nation could make informed political decisions. This distinction directly affects Articles 6, 12, 14, and 15 of the Declaration of the Rights of Man and Citizen, as each of these rights is related to the right to vote and to participate actively in the government. With the decree of 29 October 1789, the term active citizen became embedded in French politics. The concept of passive citizens was created to encompass those populations that had been excluded from political rights in a Declaration of the Rights of Man and Citizen. Because of the requirements set down for active citizens, the vote was granted to approximately 4.3 million Frenchmen, out of a population of around 29 million. These omitted groups included women, slaves, children, and foreigners. As these measures were voted upon by the General Assembly, they limited the rights of certain groups of citizens while implementing the democratic process of the new French Republic. This legislation, passed in 1789, was amended by the creators of the Constitution of 1795 in order to eliminate the label of active citizen. The power to vote was then, however, to be granted solely to substantial property owners. Tensions arose between active and passive citizens throughout the Revolution. This happened when passive citizens started to call for more rights, or when they openly refused to listen to the ideals set forth by active citizens. This cartoon clearly demonstrates the difference that existed between the active and passive citizens along with the tensions associated with such differences. In the cartoon, a passive citizen is holding a spade and a wealthy landowning active citizen is ordering the passive citizens to go to work. The act appears condescending to the passive citizen and it revisits the reasons why the French Revolution began in the first place. Women, in particular, were strong passive citizens who played a significant role in the revolution. Olympe de Gouges penned her Declaration of the Rights of Woman and the Female Citizen in 1791 and drew attention to the need for gender equality. By supporting the ideals of the French Revolution and wishing to expand them to women, she represented herself as a revolutionary citizen. Madame Roland also established herself as an influential figure throughout the revolution. She saw women of the French Revolution as holding three roles: inciting revolutionary action, formulating policy, and informing others of revolutionary events. By working with men, as opposed to working separate from men, she may have been able to further the fight of revolutionary women. As players in the French Revolution, women occupied a significant role in the civic sphere by forming social movements and participating in popular clubs, allowing them societal influence. Despite their lack of direct political influence, women's rights, the Declaration recognized many rights as belonging to citizens. This was despite the fact that after the March on Versailles on 5 October 1789, women presented the Women's Petition to the National Assembly in which they proposed a decree giving women equal rights. In 1790, Nicolas de Condorcet and Étapalme de Elders unsuccessfully called on the National Assembly to extend civil and political rights to women. Condorcet declared that, "He who votes against the right of another, whatever the religion, color, or sex of that other, has henceforth abjured his own." The French Revolution did not lead to a recognition of women's rights, and this prompted Olympe de Gouges to publish the Declaration of the Rights of Woman and the Female Citizen in September 1791. The Declaration of the Rights of Woman and the Female Citizen is modeled on the Declaration of the Rights of Man of the Citizen and is ironic in formulation and exposes the failure of the French Revolution, which had been devoted to equality. It states that the Declaration of the Rights of Woman and the Female Citizen follows the 17 articles of the Declaration of the Rights of Man of the Citizen point for point and has been described by Camille Niche as almost a parody of the original document. The first article of the Declaration of the Rights of Man of the Citizen proclaims that men are born and remain free and equal in rights. Social distinctions may be based only on common utility. The first article of Declaration of the Rights of Woman and the Female Citizen replied, "Woman is born free and remains equal to man in rights. Social distinctions may only be based on common utility." De Gouges also draws attention to the fact that under French law women were fully punishable, yet denied equal rights. Declaring, "Women have the right to mount the scaffold, they must also have the right to mount the speaker's rostrum." Slavery. The Declaration did not revoke the institution of slavery, as lobbied for by Jacques-Pierre Brissot's Les Amis des Noirs and defended by the group of colonial planters called the Club Massiac because they met at the Hotel Massiac. Despite the lack of explicit mention of slavery in the Declaration, slave uprisings in Saint-Domingue in the Haitian Revolution took inspiration from its words, as discussed in C. L.R. James' History of the Haitian Revolution, The Black Jacobins. Deplorable conditions for the thousands of slaves in Saint-Domingue, the most profitable slave colony in the world, led to the uprisings which would be known as the first successful slave revolt in the New World. Slavery in the French colonies was abolished by the convention dominated by the Jacobins in 1794. However, Napoleon reinstated it in 1802. In 1804, the colony of Saint-Domingue became an independent state, the Republic of Haiti. Legacy. The Declaration has also influenced and inspired rights-based liberal democracy throughout the world. It was translated as soon as 1793 to 1794 by Colombian Antonio Nariño, who published it despite the Inquisition and was sentenced to be imprisoned for 10 years for doing so. In 2003, the document was listed on UNESCO's Memory of the World Register. Constitution of the French Fifth Republic. According to the preamble of the Constitution of the French Fifth Republic, the principles set forth in the Declaration have constitutional value. Many laws and regulations have been cancelled because they did not comply with those principles as interpreted by the Conseil Constitutional or by the Conseil d'État. Taxation legislation or practices that seem to make some unwarranted difference between citizens are struck down as unconstitutional. Suggestions of positive discrimination on ethnic grounds are rejected because they infringe on the principle of equality, since they would establish categories of people that would, by birth, enjoy greater rights.